second episode of basic cooking and basic recipes for while you're in isolation. Today we are going to make a very simple and easy bread recipe. Now there are lots of different types of breads and you can get them very confusing and very intense with recipes, but today very simple, very basic, and it takes 4 ingredients, or sorry, 5 if you include the water. We're going to go through it very simply, and well, let's get straight down to it. Can you move the camera, please? So what we have for these ingredients is we've got 1 tablespoon of salt, which we put in the bowl, 1 tablespoon of sugar we put in a bowl, and 1 tablespoon of yeast, which we put in a bowl. Now what we have to do is quite a few steps process here, and it does take a couple of hours, so we will be bringing pre-prepared sections up to save time. So once the mixture is, the 3 ingredients are in a bowl, we put 480 milliliters of warm water, not too hot and not cold. So we put it in to the bowl, and then you whisk it together. And just keep whisking until it's all mixed in. And what you're looking for is you're looking to not have any yeast around the outside of the bowl, and just keep mixing it for for about a minute. All of the salt and the sugar will dissolve. The yeast will not have fully dissolved as yet. And from this point here, what we do is we put this aside for about 10 to 15 minutes, stir it a couple of times in between, and this activates the yeast. So we are going to put that aside, and I'm going to bring one in that we have already activated. And here is one that we have activated, and what happens is all of the yeast is dissolved fully, so just give it a bit of a stir. Very simple. And now we go on to stage 2. Stage 2 is to add flour. Now what we've got here is we have 700 grams of all-purpose plain flour. That's your 5th ingredient. Very, very simple. Now 700 grams equates to about 5.5 cups, depending on how you want to measure it out. Now you can use a mixer if you've got a mixer, but we are using this doing this all by hand, just so that you see how simple and easy it is. What to do is put flour in, spoonful by spoonful. Not all at once. Do it in about 3 or 4 different batches, and then just mix it in. And you mix it and turn until it's nice and mixed in, making sure that there's no little clumps or no little pockets of flour building up. Very simple. And make sure you clean down the sides of the bowl at the same time as well. And just keep mixing, and you will feel the consistency get better and better and simpler, smoother. Then what we do is add the next stage. This will be a messy process, so don't panic about getting flour everywhere. You can always clean it up afterwards, or get the kids to clean it up. So you just keep mixing in, making sure you get all of the flour away from the sides and into the mixture. Very simple. and you'll slowly start to see it build up to being a type of dough. And for everybody who watched the video last week of Easy Gnocchi, thank you very much. We have had a lot of great comments on that, and a lot of people have now watched the video. So if you haven't watched it, you can see it on the Facebook page, download the recipe, and make a very simple and easy gnocchi as well. So as you can see here, we are now starting to thicken up, and it becomes harder to just easily blend the flour. And again, make sure you get all around the sides.
Great arm toning exercise.
Yes, for everybody who's missing out on the gym while in isolation, this is great for the biceps. Keep going, adding the flour slowly. If you do add all of the flour at once, it will take you ages and it will make a big mess, and it then becomes harder to mix. Keep going. And there will be a stage at which you will take the mixer away, the whisk, and just use your hands, get down and dirty. And we are getting to that stage very soon, because then it becomes quite easy. Right, and I think we are at that stage. So make sure you take all of the batter or dough, it's not quite a dough yet, out. Put that away. And just start mixing the flour again. This is where the messy bit comes in. Do not be scared of it. I know it feels slimy, but do you know what? That's the fun of it. And you just keep mixing it until it's a nice consistency. Just pour the rest in.
Now you can use machinery, but this is a simple method if you don't have those type of equipment in your home.
Correct, yes. And you just keep binding it until such times as it's ready to be done, to be turned out onto the work surface. Making sure, like here you can see there's a lot of flour. It will eventually all bind, so just keep it going. And while you're turning it with your hands, just scraping the bottom of the bowl, taking all of the little bits off your fingers. And mixing it. We're getting there. It's starting to get a bit more robust and a bit more elastic. Now, for anybody who tries this, please comment later after you've given it a whirl. Next week we will be showing you some wonderful fillings that you can use into a cob loaf style, so for dips or for just for eating it out of. Okay, so as you can see, we're getting to be into a nice consistency here. So this is very elastic. So now what we need to do is turn it out onto the work surface and start kneading it. So what we need to do is take some extra flour. Now don't put too much on your work surface. You can always add extra flour. It's easier to add than to take it away. So once you've got your work surface floured, turn it out, flatten the dough, making sure that you turn it over, make sure it's not too sticky. And now is a simple process of kneading. Now there's lots of ways different people knead. The way that I do it is something that my grandmother taught me many years ago. Start in the corner, pull it out, and stretch it back and pat it down. And what you do is you move the dough roughly 90 degrees and do the same. But all that you're doing here is putting the right amount of air into the dough. And just keep doing this for about 5 minutes. And you will notice if you need to put more flour on, because it will get a bit wet and sticky. And I'm at that stage right now. So don't be scared to put more flour on.
So for people at home, can you put too much flour on it?
If you start off with too much flour, yes you can. If you just put it on gradually, you will know whether it's too much. But if you do put too much on, just try and scrape it off and push it to the side, because you'll always use it again. And then you just keep mixing and mixing. So while I'm doing this, what recipes are you going to do next week?
Okay, next
What are you
week,
thinking
well, some of the fillings we were thinking of a spinach and cream cheese dip, where you take out the inside of the cob, use that as obviously the bread that you're going to use to eat it with, and for presentation. We'll also have a camembert cheese and garlic with rosemary dip, so that's if you'd like a savoury type dip. And then if you prefer a sweeter type dip, we will have a camembert with cranberry sauce.
Wow. And I will not be making these next week, so you'll have a different chef.
Oh, I might get you to do the cheese, chilli and garlic. He is definitely a chilli specialist.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So I look forward to doing those as well.
I just have to work out what mask I wear.
Oh, yes. You will. Right. Seems a bit like it's taken forever, but it is worth it in the end. Trust me. Now, with this same dough, you can make, this will make 2 loaves of bread. If you do want to, you can split it up into little rolls. So there's lots of different shapes and sizes that you can make this. It's entirely up to you.
I can already sense it's nearly ready.
Yeah,
Even
we've
by
got
the
about a minute left. So one of the other things to do is, I'll explain now while I'm doing this, is when we put it in the oven, we don't preheat the oven. What we do is we put them into the oven cold, but at the bottom of your oven, at the base of your oven, put a baking tray with boiling water. And what this does is this effectively gives you almost like a steam bath for your bread, and it keeps the moisture going around the oven as it's warming up and cooking. And you put your oven on 200 degrees Celsius or 400 Fahrenheit, depending on which country you're in and what measurements you use.
Yep.
And then you cook it between 40 to 45 minutes. Now, when you bring the bread out to test whether it is ready, you take the bread, you lift it out, you turn it upside down. Obviously be careful as it will be hot, and you tap the base. If the base sounds hollow, the bread is ready. If it sounds quite dense, put it in for another 5 minutes and do the same test again. Okay, so we're pretty ready here. So now the next stage is quite simple. What we do is you spend a couple of minutes and you clean your bowl out. Now, when you clean your bowl out, it gives the pastry time to rest. And then what we do is we dry the bowl. You've cleaned your hands by then, And when you've got the bowl ready, put a bit of olive oil in, put the pastry or the dough inside, and make sure you cover all of the dough with olive oil. So keep turning it. And once it's done, I'm not going to put the oil in just yet because we've already got one pre-prepared. So once you've got it all ready, you put it aside for for about an hour and a half to 2 hours with a damp tea towel over the top of it. And what will happen is it will double in size. So now, as I said, we have had one sitting ready, and it's been it's been rising for about 2 hours. So let me just grab that and do the next stage.
Wow, what a difference.
So here is one we prepared earlier, and as you can see, the size difference in the paste or in the dough is dramatic. There is a lot of air in here, which we will punch out, but you're looking to get that sort of consistency and that sort of difference. So hopefully that makes sense.
Should we do the oil for that?
Not yet, no, it's fine. So when you're at this stage, what you do is you still need your floured surface. And you flour your surface lightly and you turn your dough out. Wow. And when your dough is turned out, you put another bit of flour on the top. Fairly simple. It absorbs the oil. And then what to do is, this is where the fun begins. You punch the air out, and you will be able to hear the air leaving the dough. Now what we do is just knead it a couple of times. Using up all the flour that you've got. And getting it ready to be divided out. And for shaping. So one last bit of flour. And then, once you're happy that it's kneaded neatly and nice, we cut it in half. And this is where we shape the dough. So you shape it into whatever type of bread that you wish. Use a bit more flour if need be. So what we're going to do now is we're going to make it into almost like a ciabatta type bread style, just a long shape. Now this will rise and it will become bigger in the oven. So there's number one. And the second one we'll do
is a cob loaf.
Is in the shape of a cob. Yes, thank you very much. Now this is quite simple. You just roll the underneath around and make it into a large circle. Fairly simple. Now here we have the two different styles. Before you put it in the oven, you put it onto a baking tray with some parchment paper or greaseproof paper. We score it 3 times across the top. Is this catching that? Mm-hmm. You score it 3 times across the top, and then we brush it with water, egg or milk, depending on the crust that you want. If you want a nice golden crust, just put some milk on it. If you want a basic crust, put some water on, cold water, as it's in the oven. And then if you want a real darker one, brush it with some egg yolk and a mixed egg. When it's in the oven, you keep it in the oven for about 40 minutes, as said earlier. And as we have a couple of times before, here is one I prepared earlier. So hopefully this is just about perfect.
Wow.
And here we go. As you see, two nice loaves. And if you do want to check the base, just make sure that you protect yourself from the heat. Turn it upside down. Sounds hollow, which is perfect. And same with this one here. Nice and hollow. And that is how to make very simple and basic bread during isolation. Thank you very much.